Good morning, lovelies. Tina Stanzik here with Empty Nest Scrapping. I'm back with another Finish It Friday. Today we're going to work on layout number 2 of the Snow Days workshop. As I mentioned in the previous video, each of the Stampin' Up workshops features a special technique. The Snow Days workshop features an ink blending technique. So today we're going to look at that ink blending technique. I have not adhered my paper all the way down to my Willow White cardstock just in case I mess up when I'm ink blending. Then I can just easily peel it off and go back to scratch with a new piece of white paper. If I ruin my whole layout, I'd be a little frustrated. If I just have to reattach my paper to a different sheet of white willow background, I will not be frustrated. I pulled out some close to my heart ink pads. Although I have been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for 2 years, I have not replaced any of my ink pads because, to be honest, I collected ink pads for 26 years. I have a wall of ink pads and re-inkers. I just couldn't see moving to yet another ink pad system. So I pulled out Sea Glass, Mint, and Sea Brook, and I'm going to try those 3 colors and see which one matches the pool party Stampin' Up color the best. As you can see, I'm doing the ink blending with the Sea Brook ink pad, and the color is just super, super light, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm using the smaller ink blending brush or because I don't have enough ink. I've added some more ink, and then I get a splashy spot, so I try to even out the splotchy spot, and I just get a much, much darker ink spot, much darker than what I really wanted. So I try again to make another ink blending spot, and I'm going to move on to the mink because I didn't think the Sea Brook was going to be the color I wanted it anyway. I thought mint was going to be the appropriate color. So I'm pushing hard and I'm still not getting any color off my ink pad. And I will be honest, it's been a hot minute since I've done any inking and stamping. I've been focusing on trying to do some other projects and finish some other projects, and I'm just not getting a lot of ink on the brush. So I decide I might need to add some re-inker because I really thought the mint was going to be the color that matched the pool party the best. So I kind of wandered off camera because I went to get my re-inker, and now I'm showing you how to re-ink. I go vertically and horizontally back and forth with the ink or squeezing ink out, and then I go kind of in little circles to try and get any spots that I missed. And then I just took my palette knife. You can use a palette knife, an old spreading, anything that will spread the ink evenly. I used a palette knife because it was there and I could easily wash it off. Now I can get the ink on the blending brush and do a nice smooth circle that I like the color and I like what I'm seeing. So I set them into side. Then I'm going to try sea glass because when you put the ink pad next to the paper, the sea glass seems like it's going to work the best. So I've got my ink open and I noticed how dark the sea glass was when I opened it compared to the mint. And then you see the sea brook is kind of a gray color. The mint is a nice leafy green color, and that sea glass is darker, but it does make a really nice blended ink circle with the blending brush. So I'm comparing all 3 colors of my ink. I know I definitely don't want that grayish green on the layout, and I'm still kind of a toss out between the mint and the sea glass. I'm again looking and thinking, yep, I think I want to go with that sea glass. I like that color. I think it's the best match. So now that I've played around a little bit and I know that I'm comfortable doing the ink blending technique with the brush, and I have a color that I know will match the Stampin' Up pool party that's in the pattern paper, I'm going to take a look back at my instructions and I'm checking to see where I should be doing those ink blending circles. Now that I'm ready to do my technique, I want to try some other I just want to try some other things out. So what I did was I found an old snowflake punch in my stash. You know, it's older than dirt because I've been scrapbooking for like 30 years. So I punched some white snowflakes, some of these tiny snowflakes out using the punch. And then I'm going to use the Zig two-way adhesive to adhere those snowflakes down. So I have two different ideas. I have the idea that I can adhere the snowflakes down and then blend over them. So I'll have some snowflake spots. Or I could use some stickles. I have some diamond stickles and I have some ice stickles. And I'm showing you the two kinds of stickles I have. And I want to try those stickles over the top of the ink blending and see how it looks on top of the ink. So I'm just trying out some mixed media things. The ink blending, that's nice. It adds a pop to the page, but I thought if I could put some stickles on top of the ink blending, it would look a lot more like snow. So I'm using my palette knife, I'm spreading it around. I did take some bitty beads out. These are close to my heart, bitty beads. They were a green color. I thought since the stickles was glue, the bitty beads might stick to the stickles and stay there, but that didn't work, so we're tossing that idea. You can see I'm showing the stickles here, the difference between the stickles diamond and the stickles ice color. I really thought the ice color was going to be the one I wanted, but the ice has like a rainbow of glitter in it, whereas the diamond is just like a nice white color and it looks a lot like snow. So I'm very happy with the results of putting the stickles on top of the ink blending. I like the way that works. So I'm going to move on to my next mixed media experiment, which is using those little snowflakes. So I've got them just on top of a Band-Aid package because I punched them out while I was eating lunch and I just brought them upstairs. I'm showing you my Zig two-way glue. It's called two-way glue because if you use it when it's wet, it will form a permanent bond. However, if you wait a couple minutes till it's dry or just tacky, then it's not a permanent bond, it's a semi-permanent bond. So then I can use the snowflake just like you would use your masking paper from Stampin' Up. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue on those snowflakes and then I'm putting them down on top of the blending and the stickles that I did. I want some smaller snowflakes to go with those large snowflake stickers to give me just a little bit of more variation in the embellishment cluster. So now I'm just sticking those snowflakes that are tacky. They've had a couple minutes to dry to tack and they're not wet. I'm sticking them down and I'm going to try blending the ink on top of the snowflakes as a mask just to see how it works. I've never done this before. I'm just giving it a try because like I said, I have the blending brushes out, I have the ink out. I might as well have a nice play this afternoon and see what I can do. Whatever happens. It's just one sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. So I'm blending over the top of those snowflakes, and those snowflakes are turning a much darker green because they're popped up. But I'm liking the way that's looking. So I'm going to peel those snowflakes up, and I'm going to try putting the ice stickles, not the ice stickles, the diamond stickles on top of the area where I blended to see how that turns out and what it looks like. Oh, first I used my rub and remove eraser because I did leave a little bit of adhesive and I don't want once I put the stickles down, it's going to look gucky and I won't be able to use the rub and remove eraser. So here I go, putting the stickles down, going to use the palette knife, blend it around, have a look, see what that looks like after I've got it all blended up. Sorry that my head's in the way. I wanted to look and see, make sure I got it nice and spread around. So you can see the difference. You can see those snowflakes where I mask, and you can see the difference between the masking and the not masking. So now that I'm done playing around, I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do. So I'm just going to move right over to the left side of my scrapbook page. I'm going to keep my example there. I'm going to pull my instructions out, and I'm going to make sure I know where I'm doing my mixed media bits so that I don't put it on the wrong spot on the page. I know when we used to do all the Close to My Heart album retreats, they would have us finish the whole layout, and then we do the mixed media at the end after your photographs and everything were on the page. And oh boy, that gave me so much angst. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I needed to be working on a plain white sheet of paper. So you can see I am working on my scrapbook magnetic glass craft mat from Glassboard Studio. This is one of my it's my second or third time working on the magnetic craft mat, and I have my T-square ruler, and I'm using my T-square along the edge, and I'm liking how that's working. And I'm showing you, I'm measuring to make sure that I am going to put my mixed media in the right space. And I just grab one of those magnets and I hold my extra ruler down, and boy, was that nice. So I'm getting my blending brush. I'm going to go ahead and do my blending. Well, actually first I want to put those snowflakes down. So I just peeled a couple of the snowflakes that I had used on my example up, and then I went over and started adding glue to other ones. So I did not have them all ready to go with the tack on them. So the glue was a little wet, but I wanted to just go ahead and get this done. So I just kept moving along, even though the glue was not tacky, it was wet. And that meant that it left some adhesive on my project. So if you are trying this, definitely wait until the glue is tacky and not wet. And that will ease some frustration when you're trying to remove the glue goopy bits from off the layout after you do your ink blending. Actually, you won't have any goopy bits because you will have left to get tacky. So now I'm doing my ink blending over the top of the snowflakes, and you see how dark the snowflakes are getting because they are popping up off the paper. So I'm just trying to make sure that I got a nice blended circle and that my circle is big enough and I have the ink everywhere where I want it or need it. And now I'm peeling those snowflakes off, and I'm going to put the stickles over the top. And you can see the white spot, or zoom in and look and see where the snowflake image is after I remove. And you see the one that was tacky that I pulled off the other project. It just popped right up. I didn't have to scrape a lot, didn't rip my paper, anything. So definitely wait until it's tacky. The two that I put down right away, I had to remove some adhesive and got a little bit of rough paper, but it's okay because I put, stickles with glitter over the top of it, so you're not going to be able to see any little bits of anything. So I'm squeezing my stickles out, going to grab my palette knife and give that a nice icy snow look. So I'm just blending all of this out to make sure that I have the stickles exactly where I want them. The ink has moved a little bit because it was still wet. Now I need to check and see where my next mixed media spot will be. So I'm moving my rulers to make sure I give myself a nice square to work in, making sure that I get the measurements correct, putting the magnet on there to hold the rulers in place. I really am liking this Glassboard Studio glass board. I'm putting the tack on those snowflakes again to put my little snowflakes, die cuts, punch outs down before I start blending. And I will, yep, just double checking, make sure I got enough snowflakes, making sure that my ink is going to be blending exactly where I want it. I've got my take your pick tool ready so that I can pull those off nice and quickly after I get my mixed media done. Gotta grab my ink and my blending brush. Here I'm just repeating the step of blending the ink over those snowflakes. Now that I'm done blending, I am debating, do I pull those snowflakes up or do I put the stickles down? So I just went ahead and put the stickles down before I pulled the snowflakes up. I liked the contrast better when the snowflakes were just white with all the sparkles around them. So I've put those stickles down, decided I didn't have enough stickles, so I grabbed a little more, went all around the circle with my palette knife. I'm happy with what I have. So now I'm going to peel those snowflakes up and see if I got a nice crisp white snowflake image in the middle of my mixed media snow, like sparkly snow spot that I'm making here. So I've got all those snowflakes. Well, I'm trying to pull them up, got them all pulled up. Sorry about the top of the head. Sometimes it's hard to see if you don't get your eyeballs right on top of what you're working on. All right, I'm back. You can see I have switched to the right side of my layout and I have centered it in the middle of my 12 by 24 glass mat. I've already stuck my snowflakes down. I've got my rulers all set up and ready to go with the magnets down. So I've made myself the nice little square where I can use my blending brush and go ahead and blend my ink out over those snowflakes. Put my diamond stickles down, squeeze a little bit out, spread it around with the palette knife, decided I needed a little bit more sparkle for that snow effect, and squeezed a little more out and went to work with my palette knife again. Now I'm moving my ruler to set up for my fourth and final square at the top of my layout. And yeah, my Tim Holtz ruler is really old and most of the measurements have rubbed off of it, but I really like that it has the metal bar on the one side so that I can cut against it, use my craft knife and cut. I cut a lot, and I like the way the measurements are when they're actually all on the ruler because there's not so many measurements that I can't see what I'm doing. However, if I rubbed all those measurements off of the ruler, it doesn't do me a lot of good because there are no measurements there to use. I do love the close to my heart T-square ruler that I have, but sometimes it just is so busy that I can't see what I'm doing. So I pulled my example out and I am comparing again the stickles, showing you all the mixed media examples, the things I tried before I went to work on the layout. Excuse the top of my head. I really am a little bit blind, so I can't see unless I'm straight up on top of my project. But I'm finishing up here with my last little mixed media circle, and now I can pull those snowflakes off. I'm hoping they're still tacky enough and they haven't become fully adhered and they're pretty much popping right up. So this is going along beautifully. And I'm very happy that number one, I tried the ink blending. Number two, I figured out which close to my heart ink goes well with the Stampin' Up! Pool Party color. Number three, the zig, I remembered to use my zig two-way adhesive, and all in all, I'm just happy with all the mixed media I did. So now that I've finished with both pages, I'm going to get this laid out on my gloss board. If you have a Cricut mat, if you have two of the close to my heart scrapbooking mats, I only had one. then you don't need this glass board mat. But boy, am I finding these magnets very helpful. I'm pulling the instructions out again to look and see, make sure I know what my next step is. I've pulled my green pattern out because it was supposed to be adhered before you did the ink blending, but I wanted to wait just in case. Like I said, I messed up and I had to move everything off. And now I'm realizing that I never adhered my DSP, my pattern paper down. And so I've got my pieces ready to go on top, but I don't have the underneath pieces glued down. And I thought, well, I'm just going to lay my photos out. Before I glue everything down, I'm going to lay my photos out. I'm going to make sure I'm happy with the way this mixed media is looking, because at this point, I can still pull that pattern paper up and do the mixed media over again if I would like to. I'm realizing I need the journaling square, so I just took one of the photo placeholders and flipped it over because it's white on the backside, thinking I'll just journal on the backside. I'm having a look-see, and after I'm pretty pleased with where everything is, I decide, well, it's time to take a lunch break and let those stickles dry before I come back and do anything else. I've gone away and I've had my lunch. Let my mixed media spots dry for about a half hour. I could have taken a heat gun to them, but I really just wanted to let them dry naturally. I'm checking them all to make sure that they're all nice and dry and that I'm ready to move on. Now I'm going to work a little bit on the left-hand side of the layout. I've adhered all of my pattern paper down. I went to adhere my photos down and realized I didn't have them matted. However, I'm going to go ahead and put this sticker down, the sticker that says memories. It is that petal pink, which is kind of a peachy skin tone color, so it's perfect right under the photos of us. Our faces are showing there. Well, I didn't have my photos matted. I had to run away and mat my photos. Normally, I print my photos with a white edge on them so that I can avoid matting them. I don't know why I didn't print these photos with the white edge on them, but I didn't, so I had to go and mat them. The nice thing about the Stampin' Up! Workshops is they do come with photo placeholders. So if you don't have a printer that will print the white mat, you can simply trim down your photo and then put it on top of the photo placeholder. I'm showing you that I was supposed to have a 4x4 square photo as my second photo on the left-hand side of the layout, but we had taken a selfie on the chairlift and it ended up being a 5x4 photo just because it didn't work. To print it as a 4x4, I would have had to cut somebody's face in half, and as it is, my husband's face is barely in the photo. I took that 5x4 and I put it on the 4x6 photo place card holder and use that as my photo mat. I am going off camera to put the adhesive on my photos just because I don't like feeling like I might get stray adhesive on my layout, especially when I'm at this point in the layout where it's 3/4 of the way done. I've done a special technique like the mixed media, and I just don't want glue all over where it shouldn't be. So I glue on my silicone mat, which is off camera. I am going to put a flip flap on top of this 3x4 picture. I have a couple pictures of the runs that we skied on that very first day at Steamboat. Oh, it was so pretty that day. Look at how the sun is shining. There was like snow the day before. Not like snow, but it actually snowed the day before and the night before. But when we went out to ski, it was crystal clear. It was warm enough that it was comfortable, and it was just so pretty. And so it was nice to get a picture of us, especially at the top of that run, the Why Not run. That was the first run that we did. And, why not? Why not do that run first? Now I'm looking at my snowflake stickers and I'm deciding that I want to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on them. And I'm showing you I'm just cutting the edge of the Stampin' Dimensionals because the edge has a longer piece. And I'm thinking since the snowflake is bigger, I'm going to want to put a little bit more of the Stampin' Dimensionals, a corner on there to hold it up. So I get that bigger snowflake and I'm looking at which way do I want to turn it a little bit? How do I want to put it? And I press it down. I should have checked my second snowflake with it before I glued it down, because once you stick those Stampin' Dimensionals down, they are stuck and they are not moving no matter what. And I realized the instructions said to overlap that small snowflake on top of the large snowflake. But if I overlap it, it's going to be a little bit too much on my photo. I should have had the larger snowflake moved a little bit more to the left, but that's not where I put it because I didn't want to put it on my husband's head. So I'm just moving that other snowflake up and off. I really still like the way it looks in the embellishment cluster. It's not exactly the way the instructions said to do it, but that cluster looks good. I'm happy. So I'm moving on to the next set of snowflakes. There is a large and a small snowflake at the bottom on top of that memories sticker. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on them and make sure I'm double checking the placement with the workshop guide and playing with it a little bit to see where I want it to go. And again, I'm changing up the placement just a little bit on that smaller sticker so that they are not overlapping. I'm pulling it apart just a little bit. I'm going to place it just a little bit differently. And I did the same thing with the Stampin' Dimensionals where I cut some larger pieces off and then put them on that larger snowflake just so that it had a little bit more dimension behind it before I stuck it down. Pulling the little bits off. Super easy. Love the Stampin' Dimensionals. Love the big ones, the small ones. Love the dimension that they add to the layout. Again, just a little bit of pop to add some visual interest to the page. So I've gone ahead and moved to the right side of the layout. I put the stickers in the embellishment cluster on the top of the layout, and now I'm deciding what I need to do with the stickers that are going to go around the flip flap. There is a snowflake sticker that is going on the bottom over both of those photos there. I am not putting it on Stampin' Dimensionals because I am putting it underneath the flip flap, and I don't want the flip flap to be sticking out and getting caught on things. Now I'm looking at the larger snowflake and trying to decide what I'm going to do with it because it is supposed to go over the photo that is in the flip flap. So I'm debating whether I slide the snowflake underneath the photo and journaling square, just underneath the photo but on top of the journaling square. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. I play with it a little bit and then I decide that I really need to go away and do my journaling before I stick this big sticker down. I'm double checking all the rest of the stickers, making sure that I got everything that I should have got, looking at the workshop guide, again, double checking. Today's Finish It Friday video featured layout 2 of the Stampin' Up Scrapbooking Workshop, Snow Days Scrapbooking Workshop. This particular scrapbooking workshop is retired. However, there are many Stampin' Up scrapbooking workshops available. If I have provided any inspiration today and you decide to go order a scrapbooking workshop from Stampin' Up, I would greatly appreciate it if you could look me up in the demonstrator database and order from me if you do not already have a demonstrator. Today we highlighted the ink blending technique and I showed you some additional techniques with adding stickles over the top of the ink blending, masking while ink blending, and I just really like the way my embellishment clusters turned out and the pop that it added to this layout. Thanks again for joining me today. Tina Stanzik from Empty Nest Scrappin' here on YouTube and Instagram. Stampin' Up demonstrator. Please look me up. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great Friday.